Hello, good afternoon, everyone. One of its kind transition is taking place. All of us tread our path from multiple lockdown extensions towards unlock. Amid this crucial phase, real estate also needs to adopt a new framework. Lockdown has imposed to save lives. Now it is time to focus on saving our livelihood. Government is creating new SOPs to open doors for customers. Low customer response has left the whole country wondering what is the future and by when the business will come back to normal. So this time needs to be used to reinvent and relearn new strategy for growth. Today we have with us Mr. Raghunandan. Hi, Mr. Raghunandan.
Hi, hello.
Mr. Raghunandan is a seasoned professional with over 30 years of extensive experience, responsible for all operations and strategic matters of Bhartiya Urban, including the current upcoming Bhartiya City. So Mr. Raghunandan, Bhartiya City is one of the largest integrated townships in the country. It is an intelligent city. Could you please elaborate a bit about this project and how do you look at this as a retail destination?
Okay, Bhartiya City is now over 150-acre size development and expanding even more as we acquire more land. I believe within urban city limits in India, this is the largest development within urban municipal limits in the whole country. So that's the size. What we have on the ground are about 2,500 apartments, families already living there. The next 2,500 about to move in over the next few months. So before the end of this year, we should have close to 5,000 happy families living there, with the next phase of residential to be launched soon. Apart from this, we have 1.5 million square feet of office space that's already leased and occupied. The next 1.5 million is getting ready. Then we have hospitality. We have the Leela Hotel and the Leela Service Residences, and the largest convention center in Bangalore also coming up over the next few months. I then want to really touch upon the area that I'm keenly involved in, which is retail. So we are developing in phase one, 750,000 square feet of retail, which we are hoping to launch in the next few months. The center is ready, and it's ready to go. It's just that because of the current situation, because of COVID-19, we just held back and we said we'll open it when things ease a bit. So that's the first phase of 750,000. Then we are in the planning stage to build another 500,000. So it'll be one of the largest destination centers in Bangalore of 1.2 million square feet. Now, the way we are looking at this retail center within Bhartiya City is this will be a destination, we believe, for all of North Bangalore and not just for the township. The township and the adjacent, there's a large development called Shobha City next door, and there are literally thousands of apartments being built on Tanisandra main road where we are, and the parallel road, which is Hennur. So that's a huge catchment. But we're going beyond that. If you look at it honestly, North Bangalore does not have a single good retail center to cater to a very fast growing population. And that's how we are looking at this whole center. And we can elaborate more on the center as we go along. But that's by way of introduction.
Sure, that's really interesting. So as you've said, that the project is basically a mix of retail, restaurant, entertainment, and hospitality. A vibrant center which will offer over 150 stores and brands. So how do you coping up with the changing situation due to pandemic?
Okay, it's interesting you asked that, because long before the pandemic, over the last 2 years, we put our plans into motion where we said we don't want to build a better mall than somebody else. That's not the intent at all. We said, can we have a completely differentiated product? The whole endeavor was to build an experiential center of tomorrow, not a shopping center of today, if I can say that. So what do I mean by that? To give you some simple examples, we've mapped out every single touch point from the time a consumer enters the center till he or she leaves the center. How do we map and look at experiences at every touch point? So that's just one basic way, whether it be fashion stores that they want to shop in, whether it be the food court, whether it be the cinema, whether it be car parking, all these things, everything has a touch point and everything creates an impression. So that's one. Second, we said, how do we integrate online and offline retail? Because, and it's got further accentuated today because of COVID. And there is a significant, I think, traction that online is gaining. So how do we tap into that for the benefit of consumers who want both? So that's the second area that we looked at. The third is we said, and this was 2 years in planning, can we make this the largest F&B destination in Bangalore? Certainly not Bangalore, if not Bangalore, and quite possibly the whole city. So we said we do that. Then we said, how do we look at entertainment very differently? It's not just your standard video games that we want to offer. Holistically, how can we look at entertainment? So these are the sort of building blocks that we put in place. And I don't think we as a team think substantially anything has changed for us to go back on our plans. Because, people will, I hope, be sensible with practice, safety, take care of themselves, and so will the centers which are already there, and so will we when we open. But more than that, I think people will come in if there is something beyond shopping that they have to look to. So in a sense, that's the kind of center we've been trying to create. Can we go beyond standard run-of-the-mill shopping where people just look at fashion? Because there's an overdose of fashion now. So how do we look at other categories? So we've broken it down into 6 or 7 key categories that we want to focus on, and how do we look at it? So that's been the endeavor. And so, like I said, 2 years in the planning, there's no significant reason for us to tweak our offering. Okay, there might be, about 5% of a change because of the COVID-19 issue, but I don't see a significant change. I think we started off on this journey believing that we were creating a differentiated product and experiential center, and I think we're very much on that path.
Sure. We are, like you, we are interviewing many industry leaders, and then they share the same story that, people are coming up, like, as the retail has opened, so people are showing up a positive response. Like every day, the numbers are increasing. So, and it'll get better day by day.
I think you have to give people a little more time to come out and venture out. Today, there are still a lot of restrictions and people are still apprehensive. But I certainly think if I look at the numbers we get from Delhi and Mumbai, those numbers are seeing an upward trend every day in terms of consumers visiting the centers, whether it's a restaurant, food court, shopping, whatever. Those numbers are going up. Bangalore, I think, is taking a little more time because Bangalore also, the infection rate is not yet peaked. And once it peaks and it starts declining, I think you'll see more people coming out and venture. But having said that, if I look at the standalone stores of retail in Bangalore, if I look at some of the smaller restaurants and cafes, they're doing quite well. They're actually quite busy, much to us.
Right.
The other thing I'll tell you, which is sort of gives us confidence, is we thought after this current crisis, apart from cinema, which still hasn't opened anywhere, one of the most badly affected categories has been food and beverage, the restaurant business. So, but we're actually pleasantly surprised because pretty much every week we have somebody or the other coming back and telling us that we're interested in opening a restaurant. So I think it's very heartening that they have the confidence as much as we do that the product will be good and they will deliver. This is a temporary setback, and whether it takes 3 months or 6 months, whatever time it takes, but I think they're very confident of overcoming this. And the fact they're willing to invest capex in new ventures like us is, I think, very, very encouraging.
Yeah. So see, when it was, the pandemic attacked, And everyone was so fearful, but now they are coming out of it slowly, gradually, and things would improve.
I think so. I think consumer confidence is coming back slowly.
Absolutely. So, with 30 years of experience as a visionary in the real estate sector, what are your views on the recovery of retail and real estate in the coming years?
Well, I'll restrict my comments to retail real estate and not to real estate generally. Okay, because that's my area of focus. So let me focus on retail real estate. I think this is a long-term play, and anybody who enters this or has entered this has to look at it that way. This is a pretty solid long-term play. It's a great annuity product. It's the only product in real estate where your revenues grow year on year. Okay, where the value of the center keeps appreciating. So I think this is a solid long-term play, and I think you have to choose your market carefully. You choose your location carefully. Choose the kind of center very carefully. I think there's a lot more sophistication coming into retail real estate now than there was. See, this business really started what, about 15 years ago. Shopping centers are, the first few shopping centers came up in 2004, 2005. So it's about 15, 16 years. I think they've got a lot more
Right.
sophisticated, uh, whether it's in terms of understanding of consumers, whether it's the research, whether it's the way centers have to be positioned, the mix, all those have undergone, I think, fair amount of change. And I think some of the very important factors which have also evolved are the design, the way centers are being designed. So I'll just take a step back and spend a minute on the Bhartiya City Center. Uh, our design is completely different, which is why I think we also took the route in terms of planning 2 years ago to build an experiential center. We are an open and outdoor and indoor mall. We're not just a standard box. And in Bangalore, luckily, with the weather that we have, this is something which will work. So I'm just saying, even that was quite revolutionary in terms of thought for design of a center like this. So that's how, and I think you'll see more and more centers being differentiated in that area. So to summarize, I think this is a very solid long-term prospect. I think it's a good business. Obviously you need deep pockets to sustain this business because it's very capital intensive. Okay, although you can get funding, it's very, very capital intensive. So, but I think for those who want to venture into it and build a portfolio, this is a solid business. Coming to retail, I think retail has also, I mean, in terms of organized retail, as we call it in India, we've hardly scratched the surface. Okay. Organized retail is a fraction of total retail in this country. Um, I think the big challenge for retail has been in the last few years the emergence of online retail. But I think people are settling down. People are coming with hybrid models. The interesting thing is, even in our own center, what's very interesting for me is a lot of online retailers are approaching us to take up space for physical stores. They're also beginning to bridge the gap. Traditional retailers are also bridging the gap by going online. So I think it's interesting. Uh, I think what's going to determine it ultimately, two, three factors. One, the quality and the pricing of your product or service, whatever. I mean, that's going to be key. It always is key, will be key. Whether you're addressing the right consumer segment, are you tapping into the right consumer? Do you have the mindset to do that? Do you have the acumen with social media being what it is today to really drive traffic into your stores and sell? And third, are you keeping pace with technology? See, I think the most under-leveraged aspect, whether it's retail or retail real estate like shopping centers, the most under-leveraged area is technology. So we are focusing very heavily on technology, and I'm sure others will, and I'm sure all retailers are. Okay, but I don't think we've even seen a small bit. I think you're going to see technology explode, whether it's the way you address consumer needs when you're in a store, whether it's the way you capture consumer data, whether it's the offers you make to the consumer, how do you simplify the whole shopping experience. I think in every crucial bit of this, I think technology is going to make a difference. So this is how I see it.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing this. But if you could highlight a little more on the technology part, because Bharti City is an intelligent
Right.
city. So how you are leveraging on technology. What are your views on combination of physical and digital for the future of retail real estate? If you could
Sure,
highlight
sure.
it.
Bhartiya City as a as a as a greater entity, as the city is concerned, yes, it is what we call a smart city. There is huge use of technology. Okay, whether it's in lighting, whether it's in water, whether it's in sewage disposal, any of those areas that you look at, flow of traffic, all of that. I think so. We're going to leverage on this infrastructure of Bhartiya City for the city as a whole, and retail will leverage on that. If I come specifically to the retail center that we are developing, it's going to be driven very, very, very heavily by technology. Um, Starting with basics, the most basic things like developing an app, but more than that, analysis of consumers, um, ease of shopping. So let me give you a couple of examples just to illustrate what I mean by ease of shopping. If I can have, if technology can help me navigate the center easily, get offers easily, pay for lots of things, you know, if I know where to go and how to go and what to do, much without even asking people, without too much of interface. But and if let's say I get offers that are geared for me as an individual consumer, based on analysis, based on data, then I think then technology is beginning to play its role. Okay. Also, other things like lighting, power consumption. How do we use technology? How do we rotate staff using technology? So these are the areas that we are really looking at in technology.
That's really interesting because people are looking for experience, because if they have to go shopping, all malls are same. But
Yeah.
where getting good experience, they would like to explore that more. So, and how about your expectations from the government regarding policies and norms for real estate going forward in pandemic world?
Okay. The first thing is I've been actively involved as a board member of the Shopping Center Association of India, which is our body of all developers, and we've been working fairly closely over the last 6 months during the
Right.
pandemic, right? In terms of talking to the government and various initiatives that we've taken. So let me start with that and go on to what could happen. And the first thing is we put in place with the government signed off, fortunately, um, standard operating procedures, which were recommendations made to all members of the association to follow. Simple things like how will people enter, how will they feel safe, how will they feel secure, how do you sanitize, how often do you clean, what checks do you have, what happens if things go wrong. Various SOPs were developed, very comprehensive. The health ministry actually accepted the SOP. It was only after a lot of these efforts the shopping centers were given permission to open. So that's one pre. Now, of course, there are still a couple of areas. The biggest one, which is still a challenge, which we hope will be resolved soon, will be cinemas. Okay, because that's again a big driver of footfalls. And cinema has a direct impact on food court and other F&B offerings. So that we hope the government will allow cinemas to come on board. I think cinemas are planning their own norms in terms of capacity utilization, social distancing, temperature control for air conditioning, all of
Right.
that. They're gearing up for that.
So how soon you think that the cinemas can open?
No, it should have already happened by now. We're hoping it will definitely happen in September at the latest. Because people have been starved. People haven't been to a theater since March. That's a really, really long gap. And there are, I think cinemas are also doing it very intelligently. For example, food and beverage will be largely packed and served. Um, I think temperature control is a big one. I think there were a lot of worries, misapprehensions about air conditioning, but I think we've sort of given enough expert advice and reports to the government on controlling the temperature. So 24 degrees is what it will be controlled at.
Sure.
So that's one. So you know that is one. And there are still some states where the malls haven't opened yet. I mean, for example, Tamil Nadu, I hope will open in September. It's still not
Yeah.
open. It's one of the large states where it's not open. Bangalore was the first to open, followed by Delhi, followed by Mumbai, and so on. What else are we looking for the government? there are two sides to it: retailers and developers or retail real estate. I think retailers have been crying out loud for assistance, um, largely in terms of sustaining themselves financially during this crisis. See, remember, for let's say 3 to 5 to 6 months, they've not been able to trade at all. All their merchandise has been locked up in the centers. The warehouses have been locked. Okay, they were doing a fraction of their online sales because there was this demarcation between essential and non-essential deliveries online even during the lockdown. Now, all that took its toll. So there's been no significant revenue, which is it's now only beginning to happen. We're beginning to see the traction now. Okay, but they've had overheads. In many cases, they've had to let go staff. In some cases, in many cases, I also believe they retained staff, although they may have paid them less. So how do these people financially secure themselves for the next 6 to 9 months? Because see, I think the whole industry as a whole, when I say industry, I mean retail, real estate, everybody is very confident come sometime end of first quarter, beginning of second quarter, things will be definitely back to normal. We're looking at post March, April next year, when things will be back. How do you support people from March, April, when the lockdown started, till let's say the end of this year, beginning of next year? How do you support people? So I think that's the challenge. The RBI gave some moratorium, but that's not enough. That is just not enough to sustain retail. That is not enough. Okay, so I think long-term working capital needs is some issue that has to be addressed. The second is, if I come to retail real estate, which is mall developers, shopping center developers, I'll break it up into existing and upcoming. So we are in the upcoming categories, in the sense we are ready, but we have not yet opened. Existing centers, I think the single biggest challenge has been, see, the way malls work is when you sign up leases and you start operations, you convert the leases into lease rent discounting, right? And you discount it upfront with the bank, and you pay the banks over 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. How do you pay your EMIs for the LRD when you have no revenue coming in, or you have significant loss of revenue? So I think that's a huge challenge. Okay, so we're still talking to the government. What do you do on electricity tariff? And how do you charge electricity? I think that's another huge challenge. The third is, as long as you have restrictions in place, your revenues are going to be significantly impacted. So how do you ease restrictions without compromising on safety and security and sanitation in any way? So I think there are ongoing efforts with the government at the state levels, at the central government level, through the associations body, whether it's SKY, whether it's Retailers Association of India, other bodies. I think lots of people have taken a huge amount of pain and effort in doing something for the industry. All I can say is the dialogue is ongoing. Because, this is something, even for the government, this is new. I mean, never in our lifetimes or our history have we seen anything like this. So, to tackle this is not easy. And the size is, mind-boggling when you look at the size of what has to be addressed. So let it be incremental, let it be small, but at least let's start moving. So we're constantly working with the government. Yeah.
Because there are general SOPs provided by the government, and all the real estate, all the malls are adapting to it, like maintaining social distancing, checking temperature checking, and all of these things. But there are few malls who have really gone ahead in car sanitization. They are providing a lot more. So these are not standardized, right? These SOPs are not standardized.
SOPs are standardized in terms of, at least they're recommended by the body to all developers, in terms of basic things like temperature control, checking your Arogya Setu app, sanitization, all of that are standardized. For example, even let's say use of the washrooms is controlled in terms of number of people allowed in at any point of time. Even those things, and how often do you clean them? How often do you clean the common areas? What do you do? Okay, so that, I think those are pretty standardized. Things like what you mentioned, car sanitization and others, that's an added service that developers are offering.
Absolutely.
So I think the more services they offer, the better. These are just confidence building measures to tell consumers that, listen, it's
Right.
safe to come back and shop. Don't worry
Right.
about it.
Yeah, some have built apps.
There are only two sort of minor deterrents to this whole thing. Otherwise, it will be even faster. And again, it's a recommendation. It's not compulsory. It's recommended that children below the age of 10 and adults above the age of 65 do not expose themselves to public. It's a recommendation. But it's a big deterrent for the shopping center business, because this is typically a place where you come with family.
Exactly.
So that's a bit of a deterrent, but I think over time that will also be addressed.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Raghunandan, for your valuable time.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Exhibition's initiative of bringing industry leaders together is to present their unique thoughts in these testing times to help many in the industry to survive their day-to-day challenges. So let's stay connected for much more to come. Bye and stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.